Hello everyone, in this episode I will walk you through the process of creating character animations that is going to be used in the game engine. As you can see in this list, we're gonna go over 6 animations. This episode is quite longer than others because I will talk about how I did them and why I choose to do so. Also, I will share few tips that you can use on your projects. Let's have a quick look at what we're gonna create. Here is a very basic idle animation, just a subtle windy motion. This one is for when the player gets too close, it goes into attack mode. I'll explain more when we get to this point. This one is for the weak fast attack. And we have another animation for the slow but powerful attack. There is another idle animation, but this one will be used during the attack mode. And finally, we have one that goes back into the idle pose. Couple of things before we begin. Every visible object on the screen has impact on playback speed, and since we will go back and forth on the timeline many times, it's a good idea to hide unnecessary things. For example, some of the bones will be controlled by IK bones, and you can't rotate them manually, so we don't need to see them at all times. And these green leaves will slow us down. We will use them on 3 different animations, so I will hide them whenever we don't need them. Okay, let's begin with the idle pose. First thing I'll do is to hide the arms on top side, so they're not visible, and it looks like a regular tree. Then I will rotate upper branches just enough that it looks like a windy weather. Second animation is sort of a warning to the player. Look, you got too close, if you get any closer, I will attack you. This one actually popped in my head back when I was modeling the character. Originally, I was going to do an idle pose and 2 different attack animations and be done with it, but it's not challenging enough. This way, I will dive into animation states, transitions and AI, even though it's very basic stuff like checking player location. So this decision gave me 3 more animations to do. This is the first one. If the player enters a certain range, it will stop idle animation and transition to the attack mode. This one here is the transition animation. Think of it as drawing out a sword or picking up a heavy machine gun like you normally see in video games. While the idle animation will loop indefinitely, this transition will only play once, then move on to the next part. I'm using pose-to-pose method to define key poses, then modify in-betweens. To give it a natural movement, I'm trying to spend as much time as possible. And I'm doing both arms individually. Its arms have different size and different thickness, so it's only logical that one arm moves slower than the other. Okay, now that we have transitioned to the attack mode, we will need another idle pose exclusive for this part. I will use the last frame of the previous animation and also copy some keyframes from before to speed up the process. This one is mostly about manipulating keyframes, so it's done pretty quickly. Now we need to create an attack animation. Generally, it should start from the last frame of the idle animation. There are some exceptions such as fast-paced games where you need it to happen as soon as you press a button, but it's not the case here. This will be the enemy, so we need to give the player some reaction time to dodge or block the incoming attack. When it's done with the swing, the hand should return to where it was, but of course with a slower motion. The tricky part of one-handed swings is you change the center of gravity, so I will move the other hand in the opposite direction to balance the motion. For the heavy attack, I will simply copy the animation and modify the timing so it takes a little bit longer to swing. Now that we are done with the attack mode, we need one more animation to return to the idle state. Again, I copy other keyframes, but remove unnecessary parts to quickly finish this. And finally, our character is complete and we can move on to Unreal Engine. On the next video, I will show you how to use these animations to create an enemy that knows the player's location and reacts to it. Thank you for watching.